Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishwapad Paramhamsa Parivijagacharya Sudarshada Shri Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishwapad Paramhamsa Parivijagacharya Sudarshada Shri Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki. Granth Raj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Jai. So we're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 14, The System of Universal Management, Verse 7. Indro Bhagavata Dattam. Indro Bhagavata Dattam. Trailokya Shriyam Urjitam. Trailokya Shriyamurjitam. Punjana Pati Lokam Strin. Punjana Pati Lokam Strin. Kamam Loke Pravarshati. Kamam Loke Pravarshati. Indro Bhagavata Dattam. Trailokya Shriyam Urjitam. Punjana Pati Lokam Strin. Kamam Loke Pravarshati. Indro Bhagavata Dattam. Trailokya Shriyamurjitam. Punjanapati Lokam Strin. Kamam Loke Pravarshati. Indro Bhagavata Dattam. Trailokya Shriyam Urjitam. Punjanapati Lokam Srin. Kamam Loke Pravarshati. Matajis. Word translation. Indra, the king of heaven. Bhagavata, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dattam, given. Trailokya, of the three worlds. Shriyam Urjitam, the great opulences. Bhunjanaha, enjoying. Pati, maintains. Lokan, all the planets. Trin, within the three worlds. Kamam, as much as necessary. Loke, within the world. Pravarshati, pours rain. Translation. Indra, king of heaven, receiving benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus enjoying highly developed opulences, maintains the living entities all over the three worlds by pouring sufficient rain on all the planets. It has no purport, so we'll read text 8. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. In every yuga, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hare, assumes the form of siddhas such as Sanaka to preach transcendental knowledge. He assumes the form of great saintly persons such as Yajnavalkya to teach the way of karma. And he assumes the form of great yogis such as Dattatreya to teach the system of mystic yoga. Purport. For the benefit of all human society, not only does the Lord assume the form of Manu as an incarnation to rule the universe properly, but he also assumes the forms of a teacher, yogi, jnani, and so on, for the benefit of human society. The duty of human society, therefore, is to accept the path of action enunciated by the Supreme Lord. In the present age, the sum and substance of all Vedic knowledge is to be found in Bhagavad Gita, which is personally taught by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the same Supreme Godhead, assuming the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, expands the teachings of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hare, is so kind and merciful to human society that he is always anxious to take the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing the chapter 14, which is about the system of universal management. And here it's explained how Krishna is taking responsibility of the universe that he has created. So although Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that although it is created by him, he is not within him, but yet he is spread within each part of his creation through his energy. And he is directly and indirectly looking after the universe. And so here is showing how he is looking after the management of the universe. It's a very intricate affair. It's not easy, it's not straightforward. There are different gradations, there are different levels within the management, there are different hierarchies. And Krishna is personally making sure that all the personalities who are coming in those positions, they are responsible, they are qualified. And so Krishna is assigning the roles of different demigods and different higher living entities, and there are times when he comes himself. And so therefore, you can see that it's interesting because this universe is primarily populated by non-devotees. And yet, Krishna is taking charge of this universe and he is looking after everyone. So it's not just that Krishna is just favoring and looking after the devotees, but Krishna is looking after everyone, even those who are non-devotees, even those who are animals, birds, beasts. They're all these living entities who are populating this universe. But Krishna is making sure that everyone is looked after and everyone is maintained. So we can see as devotees that since Krishna is taking so much charge and Krishna is taking so much care of every single department within the universe, even though it's all populated by non-devotees, we can be sure that Krishna is going to be even more careful in looking after the devotees because they are Krishna's personal family, personal friends and family members. So Krishna is even more inclined to looking after the devotees. But how is he maintaining this universe? How is he maintaining all the living entities? Is explained here that he's providing for the management, he's providing for the maintenance. So, Krishna is explained in the Ishopanishad how this world is perfect and complete and everything is provided for whatever is the need of the living entity. So there is need for food, we all get hungry, so there is food provided. We all get thirsty, so there is water is provided. In other words, whatever the needs of individual living entities are, they are provided by the Supreme Lord. But along with all those needs, material needs, physical, psychological, emotional, all these needs that Supreme Lord provides, but along with that, He is also providing the education. Just like here in the temple, we are providing the good community of nice people around. We are providing food, prasadam. We are providing good music, kirtan. We are providing nice shelter. It's nice, cool place here. So even in the hot summer days, you can be roaming around very hot. But then you come inside, it's very soothing, it's very cooling. Nice music going on, nice deities are there, nice fragrances are there. So it's a nice shelter. So everything is provided in this place. But most importantly, what is provided is the education. We have all these Bhagavatam classes every day. We have many different classes in the evenings. We have many different courses running on the weekends and weekdays. So in that way we are providing education. Why? Because everything else we have right now, whatever food and clothing and shelter, whatever we need and that we have, these can come and go, but we can see that there are a lot of people who have all these basic necessities met and still life is incomplete for them. There is a lot of dissatisfaction within the hearts of all the living entities. They're quite unsure of where they are aiming in life, where they are supposed to be going in life. What is the goal of my life? What is the purpose of my life? What is my identity? Who am I? Whom am I supposed to serve? And so the living entities are very confused these days, very lonely. And so therefore, a systematic education is very much necessary. And here Krishna is also showing, here in the Bhagavatam it's explained how Krishna is also teaching. He is being the supreme teacher. And he is teaching not only one department of knowledge, he is teaching all different departments of knowledge. So here in the translation, he's explaining the different departments that Krishna is teaching. What are the different departments from translation that Krishna is looking after, that he is teaching? There is karma. Krishna is teaching karma through. It's explained here. Who can say? Who? Yajnavalkya, that's right, yes. is Yajnavalkya. He is also teaching Jnana, the transcendental knowledge, through Kumaras. Correct. He is also teaching Yoga through Dattatreya. So he's not just teaching he's not just teaching one department of knowledge. He is teaching all different departments of knowledge. And because all these different departments are necessary. Correct? So it's explained that Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, is that Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma sansthapanarthaya. Krishna says that while to annihilate the demons, to protect the devotees, it's another purpose that's given is, he comes to establish the principles of religion, principles of dharma. Something that we all need in our life. So these dharma, every yuga has its own dharma. It's called the yuga dharma. Every yuga has different activity that is considered to be the supreme. And therefore, there is different yuga avatar who is teaching that yuga dharma of that particular age, of that particular time or circumstances where certain activity is most relevant. So although the other activities also might be there, primarily one activity will be more supreme. So therefore, we hear in the Bhagavatam, it's a Kritayat Dhyayato Vishnu. It's in Satya Yuga, the process, the dharma was meditation. Tretayam Yajato Makhe. In Treta Yuga, there was great yagya, fire sacrifices. In Dwapara Yuga, there was deity worship. And in Kalotad Hari Kirtanat. In Kali Yuga is Hari Kirtan, the chanting the holy names of the Lord. So all these different dharmas, they are not just established whimsically by someone. This is established by Lord Himself. And Krishna Himself comes in different yuga avatars, and He ensures that the living entities are able to follow those dharmas, that they understand this dharma properly and follow through them. And this is Krishna's system, and He makes sure that everyone is able to follow that. And so every time there is an interruption, there is a disruption in that system, then Krishna again comes to establish that. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Imam Vivasvata Yogam Praktavan Aham Avyayam. Says that every time when there is a disruption, is that I come. Just like many millions of years ago, I came to teach this knowledge of Sun God to Sun God Vivasvan. But the system was broken, so therefore I am teaching again this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to you. And so therefore, in this way, it's very important for Krishna that this knowledge, this education goes on, and there is no interruption in these regards. So the devotees can say that, why is Krishna teaching all these other processes? Why is he teaching karma? And why is he teaching jnana? Why is he teaching yoga? He can just teach bhakti. Simple. The devotional service. That's the supreme activity. Why Krishna has to take trouble? Why he has to take all these different incarnations and teach all these other processes which are not the highest? Why it's not the perfect? Because there are living entities in different levels of their advancement in the spiritual path. And so Krishna acknowledges that there are living entities in different levels, and Krishna provides them for wherever they are at. Just like the parents who have children, they know that children when they're young, they can only eat certain amount of food. Then when they grow, they can eat more. And then when they grow more, then they eat more. So the parents are not going to try and feed the children a little extra so the children can grow faster. No, there is a natural process in growing up. And so you can only feed so much until the time comes when they've grown up a little bit more, and then you can give a little bit more. So similarly, Krishna, just like a loving father, but also an intelligent father, he knows how much the living entity can handle. And so therefore he gives different processes of knowledge to accommodate living entities at different levels. And so therefore he is coming in different incarnations to teach karma, the process of karma, process of yoga, process of jnana, so that eventually from wherever they are at, they can still learn the knowledge from the Supreme Lord, and they can make a gradual advancement from wherever they are at. So sometimes, the devotees who are outreaching, who are trying to connect with people, and sometimes we love to smash people who are in the platform karma or jnana or yoga. We like to demean them, shame them, this is lower, this is not the highest. Actually, bhakti is the highest. So someone can be engaged in doing some charity work, or someone can be doing in the work of studying some Upanishads or Vedas, or someone can be following the process of yoga. And sometimes devotees can get overly enthusiastic and start teaching these people that no, what they're practicing is lower. But the highest, what Krishna teaches, is the bhakti. And so therefore they should stop all that, they should come to the point of bhakti. But actually it's not the way to go. So here we can see that Krishna not only acknowledges these processes, but he personally comes and he teaches the proper ways of performing karma or yoga or jnana. So therefore, Krishna also says this in Bhagavad Gita, is that we should not disturb people who are engaged in different processes of different paths. We should not disturb their practices, but rather we should try to engage them in something that's higher. So, and that's what the pure devotees are expert at. Prabhupada was expert at engaging people from wherever they are at to bringing them to the highest platform. So people who are practicing the process of karma or jnana or yoga, Prabhupada would encourage them to come to the process of point of bhakti. And he would very expertly navigate their journey, so much so that Prabhupada would say things which are very heavy, very strong. Prabhupada would sometimes, some very big celebrities, government officials, politicians, lawyers, and these people who are very highly achieving in the society, and Prabhupada would smash them. He would tell them, "You are a fool. You are a rascal. You're completely. You have no brain." And Prabhupada will say all this kind of thing, and these people will laugh. These people will actually laugh with Prabhupada, and they would actually get it. They will understand, and they will follow what Prabhupada would say, because more than the knowledge and philosophical understanding, one thing that Prabhupada had, and something that we often lack in our outreach, in our preaching, is we lack the genuine compassion, the genuine concern for the other people, for the other living entities. We often try to prove our way to be the best way, because after all it's we who are practicing it. The great us who are practicing it, and therefore whatever we are doing is also great, because after all I am great. And so therefore in the spiritual circles, sometimes there are many followers of different religions and faiths, and sometimes they can get a bit too proud of what they practice, and so therefore in their outreach they come out to be very strong, or sometimes unnecessarily strong, because they try to really push it down the throat what they are practicing and what they are following. Surely that they are getting some experience of that's getting some higher taste in their following and their practice. But one thing that they often lack is the concern for the other living entities, and sensitivity to know where they're at, and actually their ability to give them what they can handle, what the other person can actually handle. So therefore, so here Krishna is showing that supreme sensitivity and concern in his teaching, in his education. And so in this age, Prabhupada is explaining that there are many different processes that are given by Supreme Lord in different times, in different circumstances. And so Prabhupada in the purport explains here that in the present age, the sum and substance of all Vedic knowledge is to be found in Bhagavad Gita. So this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is saying that everything that is required for this age, for this day, is given in the Bhagavad Gita. There's one book that covers all the knowledge. I like Vaisheshika Prabhu how he says that it's like a zip file. You double click on it and everything comes out. So it's like that. This Bhagavad Gita, within that Bhagavad Gita is the entire Vedic knowledge. So sometimes certain spiritual processes or even certain devotees sometimes criticize Prabhupada and his teachings, saying that what Prabhupada taught was just very basic. The knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and the knowledge of Bhagavatam, that's very basic. But there is more things are there. There is more deeper knowledge is there. But actually no. Everything is within Bhagavad Gita. So we have the entire Vedic studies, which comprises of all the 4 Vedas, which includes everything, the material knowledge and spiritual knowledge. So Vedas literally contain everything that the human society needs in their existence for anyone, for any time, any circumstances. For material knowledge, spiritual knowledge, Vedas provide for everything. But it's so vast and it's so huge that it will take us many lifetimes to go through. For most of us, we don't have even one full lifetime because we get introduced to this process somewhere in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And then we are working, we have the family, we have many commitments, so we have very little time. So we can't go through the whole Veda or entire Vedic study. And Vyasadeva knew this. So therefore what did he do? He took out the spiritual essence of the entire Vedic study. So that extracted spiritual information of the entire Vedas, that is Upanishads. These Upanishads talk about the entire spiritual subject matter of the Vedas. But the Upanishads are very cryptic. It has the way of giving knowledge is neti neti, not this, not that, not this, not that, which is great because people were going from this material perspective. When they try to understand spirit soul, for example, then they naturally try to project their experience and understanding of this world to something that doesn't belong to this world. So they try to think, oh, the soul, is that material? So therefore the Upanishad says, no, it's not material. It doesn't die. It cannot be withered by the wind, cannot be dissolved in the water, cannot be broken down into pieces. So it just explains like the things that doesn't happen to the soul. And so it's like a nice bridge for a lot of people to understand that, okay, there is something more than just the matter. But then again, Upanishads doesn't give very clear understanding of the spiritual subject matters. So therefore the same author then took out the essence of all the Upanishads and explained it in the form of Vedanta Sutras. So Vedanta Sutras, which is giving the summary of the entire Upanishads, gives these codes that within those codes is like the entire Vedic philosophy explained. Again, it's very difficult for many people to understand, and so therefore same Vyasadeva gave the commentary to Vedanta Sutra, which is Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which is the complete explanation of the entire Vedanta Sutra. And the summary of this Bhagavatam is Bhagavad Gita. That's why often the devotees explain how the Bhagavad Gita is like the ABCD, and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the graduate study to Bhagavad Gita. So therefore everything that we need to know is within those 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Primarily also because we are able to understand the most important topic from the Bhagavad Gita, that is Krishna himself. Why? Because this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna himself. So it's explained as the Vedeshta Sarve Aham Eva Vedya. So Krishna explains in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he said that by entire Vedic studies that I am to be known. And you get to know him by just studying the Bhagavad Gita, just studying those 700 verses. We get to know him in complete, in full. And so therefore, this one book, Bhagavad Gita, is complete and is perfect for us to understand the entire Vedic knowledge. Even within Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains all different yoga processes. He compares them and he establishes the bhakti as the supreme. So it's very, very special. And then Prabhupada goes on to explain the purport that this Bhagavad Gita was personally taught by Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can see there are many different religions in the world right now. Many different practices, many different following. And we can see like books like Bible, which were the revelations. So it's not exactly what Jesus spoke, or it's not what God spoke. It's usually, these are the revelations that the followers of Jesus had, and they wrote it down. So therefore you have the books of all the different followers of Jesus. We have the Quran, we have many different other books which are written by the followers of God. But when we take to Bhagavad Gita, this is the knowledge that is spoken by God Himself. So we can say for sure that this is the only book, in the sense that this is the book that is spoken directly by God. It's not spoken by someone, it's not written by someone else. It's actually directly spoken by God. And so this is a great value. This is a very important thing to understand. It's just like, if I say something about myself, it's always going to be most accurate. If someone wants to know something about me, if I say about myself, that's the most accurate thing. If someone else speaks about me, that depends on how much they know me, is how much they're going to be able to explain about me. So therefore Prabhupada is explaining here that this is spoken personally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore this is very, very valuable. And then Krishna doesn't finish there, because Krishna speaks the entire Bhagavad Gita himself. He establishes very clearly the process of bhakti 5,000 years ago, but still people didn't get it. And so there was still a lot of confusion, and people started misinterpreting the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And so what Krishna did, Krishna again came as a devotee to explain how the process of bhakti is meant to be lived. And he comes in the form of Lord Chaitanya. So Prabhupada explains in the purport later, is it the same Supreme Godhead assuming the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expands the teachings of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. So this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is almost like a secret code. And Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that this is the topmost secret among all the secrets, because Krishna put a certain condition, certain qualification. When you follow that condition, when you follow this qualification, only then you can understand Bhagavad Gita. What is that qualification? Is that you have to become a devotee. That when you become a devotee, then you can understand the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, you will not have the access to the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And therefore, we can see so many people translating and commenting and interpreting Bhagavad Gita in so many different ways, but they actually don't have the access to the original Bhagavad Gita because they don't understand the actual message of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's coded. But the same Bhagavad Gita was explained by Lord Chaitanya, and he said no qualification, no conditions. Anyone can understand this knowledge. Anyone can have access to this knowledge. And therefore, in that way, he made it accessible for all the living entities. So that's why Prabhupada is explaining here that he is so merciful, he is so kind, is that he is making this knowledge accessible to every living entities. And we hear in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Lila, the 9th chapter, which is the desire tree of devotional service. And it's explained there figuratively. The author, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, is explaining figuratively how this devotion, the desire tree of devotional service, how this tree was planted by Lord Chaitanya. So this is a figurative explanation to explain how the tree of devotional service, it started from Mayapur, and then the trees and the branches grew, and it grew to the entire world. And the fruits of this tree and this, coming out from the branches are eaten by all the living entities around the world. And so these fruit are the fruits of love of Godhead, which are spread all over the world. And actually we can see how the Krishna Consciousness Society is spreading so wildly, and actually so many people are able to get the fruits of love of Godhead, which the tree which originally started in Mayapur, and Lord Chaitanya is explaining that I'm the gardener of the tree, but I'm also the trunk of the tree, and so I want to spread these fruits of love of Godhead to all the living entities within the universe. So why just keep it to one particular region, or why keep it to only one particular class of people? Everyone should experience these fruits of love of Godhead. And so therefore Prabhupada is explaining here in the purport is that the Lord is anxious to take the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. That the Lord, it's not that Lord would like us to come back to Godhead, or that it would be nice for us to come back. The Lord is anxious, and the Lord is always anxious to take us back to Godhead. And so He's making all this universal management. He's arranging for all these different managers. He's arranging for different incarnations. He's arranging for this transcendental literature. He's sending different transcendental personalities so we can have access to going back to Godhead. We have access to the ultimate success or the goal of life. So here we can see all the devotees, they're working hard, making all the sets. and these sets, we are trying to share these fruits of of the tree that was planted by Lord Chaitanya. We are sharing these fruits with anyone and everyone, and we are trying our best to share them with everyone. Now, a lot of time people say that it's difficult. It's difficult to share this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita with people. It's difficult because people don't accept it. We try to approach them, but they make fun of us, or they laugh at us. They walk away from us. They don't stop when we try to stop. They don't realize who we are, how much we are respected in the community, how much we are doing. They don't understand any of these, and then they just walk away. Or sometimes they might take the book, they don't give the money, they don't give donation. Sometimes they give donation, they walk away, but they don't read the books. So it's very difficult. How can we do this? But actually, here we can see that Krishna is very anxious to bring people back to Godhead, and it's just like the children who there are many different kinds of children, but the best is the one who can understand the anxiety of a parent, and he can somehow work in such a way so that the anxiety of the parent is reduced. A lot of times children act in a way that the anxiety of the parents increase, right? The parents are already anxious and worried about how the children will be looked after. But sometimes the children act and do things and act in inappropriate way, so that the parents are more anxious now, and you are just increasing the problem. But a good child is one who can understand what a parent wants and can somehow try to act in that way so that the anxiety is reduced. So we can see here how the Lord is anxious for all these living entities, and so therefore we should try our best to share this knowledge to as many people as possible. So we have a great opportunity. We have the book distribution marathon coming up in 2 weeks, where a lot of devotees will be going out and will be distributing thousands and thousands and thousands of books to so many people. And we will be giving them the opportunity to learn about the spiritual identity, learn about the spiritual source. And we have so many examples of so many people who got introduced to bhakti, who got introduced to Krishna consciousness through these books. So we're giving all these people the opportunity. So even if it is difficult for us, we should still do it. If it requires, then if it requires that we have to learn how to do it, then we should learn. If it requires that we have to get out of our comfort zone, then we should do it. Somehow we should prioritize, for this 1 month at least, we should somehow or other prioritize that we can try and distribute some books. And that way we can try to bring some people closer to Krishna. That we should try to develop some compassion for these living entities. We should develop some humility that I might not be glorified, I might not be respected by all the living entities that I'll try and approach. But at least I'll try. So I'll be humble. And we should try and develop some concern for all these living entities. We should try to be the well-wishers of all these living entities. And Prabhupada was explaining that this is definitely a burden. This is definitely a burden because we are working hard. Usually when devotees are going out, there's a lot of work involved. We have to prioritize things because obviously everyone is busy these days. Is the fever of the modern times, that everyone is busy. That everyone is busy doing something. So out of that busy schedule, that we can try and take some time out is not easy. But if we can somehow try to manage that, if we can somehow try to go out, somehow try to share these books, share this knowledge, share the holy name with these people, then their lives are benefited and our lives are benefited. And even if we can do it in the slightest degree, then Prabhupada was explaining that this is the burden of love. So just like for a parent, children can be burdened, because they don't always do the way how you would like. They don't act the way you would like. But you still look after them because after all, you love them. So there's a burden, but because there is love there, therefore there is no burden. So similarly, when we're taking this burden of sharing Krishna consciousness with others out of love, then it's a very nice thing. It's a very sweet activity. So it's definitely recommended. It's definitely encouraged. It's required. Otherwise, we just get busy over small things, and we start complaining about all the trifles. We start complaining about how the weather is not good, how that devotee is not nice to me, how my toe is paining because 3 weeks ago I hit it somewhere. We get caught up in these little things which are actually not very important. But if we can somehow get out and share this knowledge with others, and we can take on that anxiety, then we can come out of these small little problems of life. And in that way, we get to experience what Lord Chaitanya came to give. What Lord Chaitanya came to give, this highest experience of happiness, of bliss, in the form of Sankirtan Yajna. So when we participate in the Sankirtan, we get to experience that utmost high. And any devotee who has been out on the book distribution or on the Harinam can confirm that the highest happiness that they have experienced in their spiritual life is when they were out on the streets sharing this holy name, this transcendent knowledge with others. That's the highest experience of happiness that anyone can get. And so therefore, we should also similarly try. So with that, I'll finish. Thank you very much for your kind attention. If there's any questions or comments or corrections.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the nice class. Prabhu, you mentioned how Lord Krishna treats everyone like special, like every living entity. He takes care of their needs, and especially for his devotees, he treats them extra special. So, how does he treat us extra special?
Well, actually, devotees are quite happy. Devotees are usually quite well situated. Not just, we're not even talking about spiritually, but even materially, devotees are quite well off in comparison to people who don't have access to this community. We have the best prasadam, our best food, we have the best music. We get up in the morning with dancing and singing, and then we get to discuss something that's actually meaningful, and then we have like an amazing prasadam in the morning, right in the morning, and we can see the people just living a regular life. They don't necessarily have so much access to that. They don't. The friendship that they have are quite self-centered. The food is quite simple. Even their exotic foods, actually, it doesn't really satisfy people. That's why the same people who have been used to eating a lot of exquisite cuisines, when they eat prasad, even if it's a khichdi, we take khichdi for granted as khichdi, just we have it every day in the morning. But when they have that khichdi, sometimes we serve khichdi in our retreats to some of the people who are used to eating like this fine dines, and they eat khichdi, it's like, wow, this is the most amazing food that I've eaten. So definitely we have access to a lot of amazing things that sometimes we take it for granted. But Krishna is providing all that.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you very much. Granth Raj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.